5. Register connection with temporary sounds. How your voice works. Register connection. In Step 5, we are focusing on register connection, blending, and balance. When we sing from low to high, our vocal folds elongate and become more taut. Most beginning singers experience the frustration of a voice break when they try to sing from low to high. This happens because of two things: muscles and resonance. With good training and technique, we can learn to coordinate muscles and resonance, so we get a smooth transition from the lower register to the upper register. Vocal breaks are also called bridges, passaggi, transitions. The most challenging one is the first bridge, or primo passaggio. Bridges occur at fairly predictable areas of a singer's range. Contemporary singers bridge higher than classical singers do. The primo passaggio for most contemporary female singers is A-flat 4 to C5. This range of pitches is where the female is transitioning from the lower register to the upper register. Male contemporary singers usually begin to bridge around E-flat 4 to G4. Lower voices might start this process at D-flat 4. Transitioning through the primo passaggio. The overlap octave. Muscle activity. In the octave between approximately C4 and C5, pitches can be sung by both male and female singers in many different and often incorrect ways. This area is known as the overlap octave. Most singers and teachers of singing would agree that one of the greatest challenges in singing is creating an even and unbroken vocal line that transitions smoothly from the lowest notes of the range to the highest notes without abrupt changes in vocal quality in the troublesome overlap octave. The vocal folds vibrate differently for low notes and high notes. In the lower register and in the speaking voice, TA muscle contraction bulges out the bottom of the fold's inner edge. This means the vibrational wave pattern begins at the bottom of the depth of the fold and that the folds spend more time together, resulting in higher closed quotient, stronger harmonics, and richer timbre. In the upper register, TA muscle activity gradually decreases and the lower edge of the fold is not pushed out. There is less vertical movement in the vibrational wave. This is called amplitude, and pitch is controlled more by the CT muscles, creating the thyroid cartilage tilt. When less of the fold is in vibration, there are fewer high-frequency harmonics generated, so the sound becomes less powerful. In the upper register, the balance of muscular dominance shifts to the CT or cricothyroid muscles. The vocal folds lengthen and become more taut in order to create higher pitch, and resonance activity shifts to the second formant. Although they always work together, the CT muscle activity is greater above the primo passaggio and TA muscle activity is greater below the primo passaggio. The challenge is training them to coordinate so that each gives up just enough and not too much control. A yodel or flip occurs when the TA muscles disengage abruptly. Our goal is balanced registration, which requires a smooth coordination and interaction between TA and CT muscle activity. To transition through the first bridge or primo passaggio, a handoff must occur from TA dominant to CT dominant phonation. Here's a graphic of the transitions, passaggi bridges of the voice. You can see the overlap octave between C4 and C5. The male first bridge is E-flat 4 to G4. Roughly. The female first bridge is A-flat 4 to C5, and there are second and third bridges in both voices. The overlap octave, resonance activity. Resonance activity, or formants and harmonics, also play a big part in smooth register transitioning. This is a very complex topic that is discussed fully in the chapter reading. Here's a brief overview. Harmonics are generated by the vibrating vocal folds. They occur at frequencies that are integer multiples of the fundamental, or pitch. Harmonics give us timbre, or tone color. Formants are generated in the vocal tract, the pharynx and throat. They are basically pockets of air that vibrate at certain frequencies. When formant frequencies and harmonic frequencies are close, you get more bang for your buck in singing. This also helps us transition through the first bridge or primo passaggio. We can adjust our vocal tract and change the shape of the pharynx or throat and mouth resonators to create this alignment of formants and harmonics. This is called formant tuning or vowel tuning because we're altering the vowel when we move the tongue, lips, jaw space, larynx height, etc. Many formants and harmonics are active in a sung pitch, but some have greater energy. The two lowest formants, F1 and F2, are important for vowel definition. In singing, they are important in registration and timbre. And the graphic on the right is the overtone series. As we said, the harmonics are generated at fixed intervals above the fundamental or basic pitch. The first interval is the octave. The second interval is the perfect fifth, followed by the perfect fourth, then the major third, minor third, etc. When we sing a pitch, several higher frequencies are sounding along with the main pitch, which we call the fundamental. These higher frequencies are called overtones. A harmonic is a type of overtone. All resonant frequencies above the fundamental are overtones, but only the ones that are integer multiples of the fundamental are the harmonics. So an overtone is any resonant frequency above the fundamental, and a harmonic is a resonant frequency that is an integer multiple of the fundamental frequency. How to eliminate or avoid voice breaks. The handoff. To eliminate or avoid voice breaks, there must be a handoff or transfer of TA dominant to CT dominant phonation. Shorter, thicker vocal folds to longer, thinner vocal folds. On higher pitches, vocal fold vibration begins higher on the fold, so there is less vibrating mass. There must be a handoff of formant activity or resonance. F1 hands off to F2 dominance, at least for the contemporary mixed singer. When the frequency of the second harmonic, the octave above the pitch, is higher than the frequency of the first formant of the vowel, remember vowels are composed of F1 and F2, the first two formants, the voice naturally wants to turn over or change registers. When that second harmonic, H2, approaches the frequency peak of the first formant, we get the F1-H2 coupling, which begins to sound like yelling if taken too high. Singers artificially raise F1 frequencies by hiking the larynx, spreading the lips, and substituting open vowels. To transition smoothly, F1 must give way to F2 for the mixed timbre. Classical sopranos have a different resonance strategy, F1-H1. If the vowels are too open, this won't happen. Open vowels must be modified in the primo passaggio to avoid the F1-H2 coupling, the yell. Why this is challenging. Singers perceive resonance or sympathetic vibration in the body. For example, chest voice evolved because of vibrations felt in the chest cavity. Chest voice feels natural to us because it's TA dominant phonation, and it's the same thing as our speaking voice. It's challenging because there's a reluctance on the part of the singer to allow the connected release, because they experience the upper register mix as being not enough. Not strong enough, not loud enough. They feel it differently. It feels thin to them. But I always say perception is not reality. Also, instability is intrinsic to transitional areas of the voice, so psychologically we want to hold on instead of letting go. Tools for training voices. The temporary sounds. Each of these temporary sounds meets an objective. So if our objective is release, we're going to want to use the semi-occluded, lip bubble, tongue trill, puffy cheeks, or small ooh lips types of sounds. We would use these exercises for the pulled lower singers, but not for undeveloped or light lower singers. Can you guess why? The pulled lower singers need more release, and the undeveloped and light lower singers need more vocal fold adduction. If our objective is more vocal fold adduction, we're going to want to use the pharyngeal sounds, the witchy, bratty, voce di strega sounds, twang, adducted onset, French nasals, voiced stop consonants such as G, B, and D, and the cry. If our objective is to counteract a hiked larynx, we're going to want to use the imposed larynx sounds. We call them hooty, dumb, dopey. And if our objective is to correct overcompression or undercompression, we're going to use the friendly compression sounds such as the creak, vocal fry, edgy These sounds increase vocal fold adduction for breathy singers and decrease overcompression in pulled lower singers. The creak tends to bring both extremes back to a more moderate compression. After step 5, we will be eliminating these temporary sounds, but you can always return to them to establish vocal coordination and balance whenever required. SOVT phonation. SOVT stands for semi-occluded vocal tract. To occlude means to stop up or prevent something from flowing. In the case of singers, we are occluding airflow with these exercises. Sometimes occlusion is created with the lips or the tongue. A very effective and popular method of creating occlusion is with a straw phonation. With SOVT exercises, air pressure is reflected back to the vocal folds when the mouth is partially closed or is around a straw. This back pressure encourages ease of vocal fold vibration with less muscular effort. Semi-occluded phonation provides a resistor that balances the subglottal or subglottic below the glottis and supraglottal or supraglottic above the glottis air pressure, so there is less difference between them. The resistor, the straw, lips, or tongue, provides an obstruction or restriction of the airflow. These exercises not only teach us to sing better, they are also very therapeutic for damaged or tired voices. Anyone who speaks for a living, such as teachers, lawyers, preachers, as well as singers, should do these exercises daily. SOVT exercises also encourage mixed registration. As air pressure reflects at the lips and returns to the vocal folds, the folds assume a more balanced and squared position, which assists us in negotiating the bridges, passaggi or transitional areas where we're shifting gears. The semi-occluded sounds effectively balance airflow with vocal fold resistance, creating the optimum condition for the singer to sing through the entire range of the voice with ease and a seamless passage through the vocal bridges. Doing slide exercises and other scales with the straw through the break trains the vocal folds to vibrate in a balanced medial position instead of shifting abruptly from one position to the next. This is mixing. SOVT phonation includes straw phonation, lip roller bubble, tongue trill, closed lips over tongue trill, the tongue sandwich or raspberry, hand over the mouth, tiny lips and puffy cheeks, and voiced fricative consonants. Twang, pharyngeal, witchy, voce di strega, bratty sounds. The pharyngeal sounds add brilliance to the voice by creating a narrowing of the epiglottic funnel, resulting in a quality known as twang. This occurs when the arytenoid cartilages come closer to the lower part of the epiglottis. When the larynx rises for these sounds, the pharynx becomes smaller. This smaller resonating chamber raises F1 frequencies, the first formant. The A vowel sung with the voce di strega or witchy quality is a great way to learn twang and pharyngeal sounds. When you add a little twang, your voice appears to be louder without any extra effort. And here you see a graphic of narrowing the epilarynx for the pharyngeal or twang sounds. The imposed larynx, hooty, dumb, dopey sounds. F1, the first formant, is responsible for darkness and depth of tone. The imposed larynx or dopey sounds are created when the lowered larynx extends the tube of the pharyngeal resonator, increasing the resonating space and lowering F1, the first formant. Here are the extrinsic muscles of the neck. On the upper right, you see the suprahyoid elevator muscles. Those are the ones that elevate the larynx when we swallow. And below that, we see the infrahyoid depressor muscles. Those are the ones that give us the dumb, dopey, hooty quality by lowering the larynx. The neutral larynx. Our ultimate goal is a relaxed and neutral larynx. When the larynx stays relaxed and neutral, no matter how high or low you sing, you are free from unwanted extrinsic muscular engagement. You can then play around with slightly higher or lower laryngeal positions to color the sound and produce stylistically appropriate timbre. A well-balanced voice is based on chiaroscuro, both bright and dark resonances together. The A vowel, sung with a neutral larynx, otherwise known as speech level, is a great way to create balance throughout the voice. Step 5. Register connection with temporary sounds. The objectives of Step 5. The student will begin to connect and balance the lower and upper registers and to transition smoothly through the first bridge or primo passaggio using temporary sounds. The student begins to mix. What's different about Step 5? In Step 5, for the first time, we differentiate the order of exercises, keys, and vowel consonant combinations according to the student's vocal category. And remember, the categories are unbalanced pull lower, that's the singer who strains when trying to sing higher. Unbalanced light lower, That's the singer who has very little in the lower register but gains strength in the upper register, usually your classical soprano. And the undeveloped or breathy singer who's basically breathy throughout the range. Knowing your student's vocal category is very important in step 5. The exercises are different for each category because the objectives are different. The pulled lower singer generally needs more release in the lower part of their voice, but more adduction in the upper part of their voice. The breathy, undeveloped, and unbalanced light lower singer needs better vocal fold adduction everywhere. Temporary sounds include the coup de glatte, the pharyngeal, voce di strega, imposed larynx, creak, and SOVT, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. These exercises are meant to counteract registration imbalances due to extrinsic muscle activation. Step 5. Register connection with temporary sounds. In Step 5, for the first time, you will begin to mix, to connect and balance the lower and upper registers, and to transition smoothly through the first bridge or primo passaggio. For all singers, our long-term goal in Step 5 is balance. With good register balance, the lower and upper registers are equal in strength and tone quality, and you transition easily through the first bridge or primo passaggio without flipping, cracking, breaking, and without straining or pulling the chest voice too high. Instead, you learn to mix. In other words, your voice sounds the same from the lowest to the highest notes of your range, instead of sounding like two completely different singers. In the beginning stages of Step 5, we use temporary sounds, like bratty or witchy sounds that sound like this, nay, 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 or dumb or imposed larynx sounds that sound like this, duh, duh, duh. We also use sounds known as semi-occluded sounds, like this. Some of these sounds are not at all what you might expect to hear in beautiful singing. However, they develop the muscles that we need to sing well. So with the temporary sounds, it's okay to sound bad, because these sounds will eventually give us a great result. Knowing your vocal category is very important in Step 5. The exercises are different for each category because the objectives are different. For example, the pulled lower singer generally needs more release in the lower register but more adduction in the upper register. The breathy, undeveloped singer needs better vocal fold adduction everywhere. The unbalanced pulled lower singer, the singer who strains. For the unbalanced pulled lower singers, we start the exercises in higher keys to make sure they're singing above the bridge on the highest notes of the exercise. We begin with top-down exercises that create a released condition that is then blended downward. The unbalanced pulled lower singer will benefit at the beginning from sounds that encourage more release, such as the SOVT exercises, the lip bubble and the tongue trill, straw phonation, and closed vowels that encourage a headier vocal production, aspirate consonants that allow more airflow, and glide consonants that decrease strain. The imposed larynx sounds, sometimes called dumb in the lower register or hooty in the upper register, will counteract the tendency to engage the swallowing muscles to hike the larynx, a reflex that is endemic to pulled chest. Exercises. The unbalanced pulled lower singer. Round 1. Beginning. For the unbalanced pulled lower singer who strains, exercises must first encourage release as the singer enters the primo passaggio. Then we must develop better vocal fold adduction in the upper register, where this type of singer is usually very weak. Section 1. Release top-down exercises. Objectives. Release, that is, singing in the upper register without strain, then blending downward. Releasing excess tension in the approach to the first bridge area, allowing the folds to function with less mass on higher pitches, transitioning through the first bridge with just enough and not too much vocal fold compression. Our tools are the top-down scales, aspirate and glide consonants, closed vowels, semi-occluded phonation only if needed. All right, so here we are in round 1. Our objective is release. We're starting with top-down exercises. This is the top-down separated. Again, make sure they're giving you a clear E. They have the palm of the hand on the chin, thumb and finger on either side, and the tongue is high and forward for the E. They're watching in the mirror, low breath, and pressing out against that breathing belt. And release top down and slide. Again, we start high in the register in order to create release, and then we're going to bring this released condition down. Doing this exercise more quickly as it's done here provides even more release. Section 2, our release bottom-up exercises. Unbalanced pulled lower singers will need more release or less hold in the lower register, particularly in the pitches leading to the first bridge or primo passaggio, but they need increased vocal fold deduction in the upper register. We created release in Section 1 with the top-down exercises. In this current section, Section 2, we're going to develop better coordination in the more difficult bottom-up exercises. Our objectives are register balance, primo passaggio transition, and blending upward. Our tools are the bottom-up scales, aspirate and glide consonants, closed vowels, and if needed, semi-occluded phonation. Make sure they release to the upper register, phonation or coordination on the highest note. The repeaters develop greater strength in the upper register. And now we're going to sustain that. Once they can sustain in the upper, we're going to go to the long scale. Sometimes when you first present this exercise, you're going to have to break it down for them. So the first three are in their chest voice or lower register. The second three notes are in their upper register. So teach it to them slowly. Again, fully in the lower register on the low note and fully in the upper register on the upper note. Section 3, reinforce with our hooty stop consonant top-down scales. Voiced stop consonants interrupt airflow to assist with vocal fold deduction. This reinforces the coordination that we began in Section 1. We once more return to the top-down approach that helps the pulled lower singer find better balance. Objectives: reinforce or increase vocal fold deduction in the upper register and then blend downward. Our tools are top-down scales, voiced stop consonants, and hooty closed vowels. Now we're going to reinforce, going back to our top-down exercises, but we're going to use stop consonants. Stop consonants stop the airflow for greater vocal fold deduction. You should hear more evenness in the registers with these exercises. And now we're going to repeat it to even reinforce it more and create greater strength. geek, geek, gee at the beginning are very punchy. And now 3 times down. Round 2. Objectives: develop better upper register adduction and then blend it downward. Our tools are top-down scales, adducted onset or coup de glotte, and pharyngeal sounds, twang. Then we're going to want to slide that. And then we're going to want to repeat it. Then we move to the repeater top-down slide. And staccato, legato, vibrato. This is a fun one. Section 2, adducted bottom up. As in previous sections, once the pulled lower singer finds better coordination with the top-down approach, it's time to introduce the more difficult bottom-up scales. Our objectives are upper register adduction and then blending from the bottom up, developing an even scale. Our tools are bottom-up scales, adducted onset or coup de glotte, and pharyngeal or twang. At this point, they're pretty coordinated going from the top down. Let's see what happens when we go from the bottom up. You're still using the adduction. If they start to pull on this exercise, move back a few and go back to your top down until they really have established that coordination correctly. Next, we're going to repeat it. Then we're going to repeat it with sustain. And we have an exercise called the legato staccato octave E. Adducted bottom up legato staccato repeater. Make sure you're really sliding here. These slide indications. You're going to hit every note between this note and this note. Okay, and then this is staccato, staccato. Alrighty. Now we're going to sustain with this exercise. And go to the long scale. Again, really observing the slides. Okay, legato staccato 1 5 3 8 5. So legato and slide here, and then staccato. All right, then we do staccato legato, 1 5 3 8 5. Round 3. Pharyngeal top down. Now it's time to move beyond the adducted onset to a more balanced onset with the pharyngeal sounds. As always with the pulled lower singers, we begin with the top-down approach. Our objectives: to blend top-down, register balance, smooth transition, and an even scale. Our tools are top-down scales and pharyngeal or twang sounds. Round 3 advanced. We're going to move to the pharyngeal sounds and go back to our top-down approach to make sure that the singer does not pull. So these are the bratty exercises. All right, 2 times down with sustain. Five-tone slide. 2 octave down with those pharyngeal or twang sounds. 2 octave down, up, down. Round 3 is our advanced round. In round 3, we alternate the imposed larynx sounds and the pharyngeal sounds. We want to make sure that the larynx is low at first when connecting the registers with these pulled lower singers. The pharyngeal sounds will further increase power in the upper register, but make sure the student doesn't pull chest with the pharyngeal sounds. Our objectives are register balance, a smooth primo passaggio transition, and elimination of extrinsic muscle. Our tools are first the imposed larynx temporary sounds and then the pharyngeal high larynx temporary sounds. Now we're going to move to the imposed bottom-up sounds. Octave arpeggio on gug. Now we want the larynx to be low and imposed on these. Gug, 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 gug. Gug, 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 gug. Sustain on a gug. Gug, 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 gug. And the idea here, again, is to make sure that they can do it with the imposed larynx sound and get through the bridge correctly, and then come back later. And this doesn't necessarily happen in the same lesson, by the way, and then make sure they can do it with the higher larynx neigh as well. All right, this is the 1.5 long scale going around the bridge 3 times. This reinforces the passaggio, makes it stronger. Impose bottom up, 1 5 3 8 5 on gug. Gug, 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 gug. And on the neigh. After they can do this on the low gug, we're going to come back and do it with the high neigh. Neigh, 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 neigh. Repeater on a neigh. Neigh, 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 neigh. Neigh, So here's the long scale.
Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay.
Round 3, the finishing step. Our goal is a neutral larynx and moderate compression. Our final and finishing step is the neutral larynx and moderate compression, eliminating the extreme high and imposed larynx sounds used earlier. Our objectives are register balance, moderate compression, a balanced onset, a neutral larynx. Ultimately, by the end of this step, our goal is a finished, balanced, neutral larynx phonation. Our tools are the creak, M combined with m, a neutral larynx, and bottom-up scales. Teaching tip, the magic of m. Say the word m. This creates a relaxed throat space and neutral laryngeal position with moderate vocal fold compression. After we work through the high and imposed larynx exercises to counteract extrinsic muscular interference, our goal is to sing with a relaxed and neutral larynx with a balanced onset. In this section, the voiced stop consonants and adducted onsets used previously to encourage vocal fold adduction are replaced with the M sound, which encourages a balanced onset. And another teaching tip, the creak. Using the creak, also known as vocal fry, is a good way to find just enough and not too much vocal fold compression. This can help encourage a coordinated transfer from TA dominant vocal fold activity to CT dominant vocal fold activity. In other words, a smooth, unbroken line from the lowest notes to the highest notes of your range. In order to creak or fry successfully, you have to be relaxed, and you must be singing at a moderate volume. Singing too loudly or pushing air will cause coughing or tickling of the throat. Try these exercises first with the creak, and then do them again, eliminating the creak. The creak is also used in Step 8, Style, to add texture and emotion to singing. And the next section, round 3, moderate compression, neutral larynx. Start with the creaky question. And you can use creak or not on the following exercises. The objective of these exercises is, again, moderate compression and neutral larynx. Speech level. We're going to start with a moderate compression neutral larynx, octave arpeggio slide. Again, you can do this creaky or clean, but on an So that was the 1 octave slide, and the siren is 2 octaves.
Mom, 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 mom.
Moderate compression, neutral larynx, octave arpeggio. Again, you can do these creaky or clean. Now we're going to repeat it.
Mom, 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 mom.
And we're going to sustain that repeat.
Mom, 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 mom.
And moving to the long scale. All right, so this moderate compression, neutral larynx, double 1.5 long scale. You start with and then open up to And at this point, you should be mixing and ready to move on to step 6. The unbalanced light lower and undeveloped categories, the breathy singers. For the undeveloped and unbalanced light lower category singers, we develop better vocal fold adduction in both the lower and the upper registers. Generally, this category, the breathy singer, will need to learn to bridge higher to create a more contemporary sound. For breathy, undeveloped, and unbalanced light lower singers, we begin with bottom-up exercises in lower keys to give the singer more hold or vocal fold adduction in the lower register. Then we want the singer to maintain that adduction as they sing higher. We use the bratty, twang, witchy, voce di strega exercises, adducted onset exercises, and open vowels. Exercises for the unbalanced light lower and undeveloped singer. Round 1. Section 1. We begin with adducted bottom-up exercises. Our objective is to increase adduction. The first objective is to increase the adduction of the vocal folds, first in the lower register and then in the upper register. We then encourage register balance and smooth primo passaggio transition by blending upward with bottom-up scales. Tools. We use the adducted onset or coup de glace, open vowels, and bottom-up scales. Section 2. Adducted top-down exercises. Once the breathy singer has established a better coordination with the bottom-up exercises, it's time to introduce the top-down exercises. Our objectives are vocal fold adduction starting in the upper register, register balance, and smooth primo passaggio transition by blending downward. Our tools are top-down scales, adducted onset, open vowels, and pharyngeal or twang. Round 2. Round 2, our intermediate round where we reinforce and develop. Section 1, Hootie Top-Down exercises. Once the student has improved vocal fold adduction with the coup de glotte exercises in the previous section, it's now time to introduce the lower larynx and less aggressive voiced stop consonant onset. Our objectives are developing the upper register by encouraging vocal fold adduction and closed quotient, then blending downward through the primo passaggio. Our tools are top-down scales, hootie sounds, voiced stop consonants, and the imposed larynx. Round 3. Round 3 is our advanced round, where we improve register connection with the temporary sounds. For the breathy, undeveloped, and unbalanced light lower singers, we begin with the pharyngeal or high larynx sounds, followed by the imposed larynx sounds to develop register connection and balance. This is the opposite approach from the one we used for the pulled lower category singers. Our objectives are counteracting extrinsic muscle activity, developing register balance, and a smooth primo passaggio transition. Our tools are the pharyngeal high larynx, then imposed larynx temporary sounds, and bottom-up scales.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Go.
Round 3, our finishing step, the neutral larynx and moderate compression. Our final and finishing step is the neutral larynx and moderate compression, eliminating the extreme high and imposed larynx sounds used earlier. Our objectives are register balance, moderate compression, balanced onset, the neutral larynx, and ultimately, by the end of this step, our goal is a finished, balanced, neutral larynx phonation. Speech level. Our tools are the creak, M combined with M, the neutral larynx, and bottom-up scales. Teaching tip, the magic of M. Say the word M. This creates a relaxed throat space and neutral laryngeal position with moderate vocal fold compression. After we work through the high and imposed larynx exercises to counteract extrinsic muscular interference, our goal is to sing with a relaxed and neutral larynx with a balanced onset. In this section, the voiced stop consonants and adducted onsets used previously to encourage vocal fold adduction are replaced with the M sound, which encourages a balanced onset. And another teaching tip, the creak. Using the creak, also known as vocal fry, is a good way to find just enough and not too much vocal fold compression. This can help encourage a coordinated transfer from TA dominant vocal fold activity to CT dominant vocal fold activity. In other words, a smooth, unbroken line from the lowest notes to the highest notes of your range. In order to creak or fry successfully, you have to be relaxed and you must be singing at a moderate volume. Singing too loudly or pushing air will cause coughing or tickling of the throat. Try these exercises first with the creak and then do them again, eliminating the creak. The creak is also used in step 8, style, to add texture and emotion to singing. Test your knowledge. To review, complete the Test Your Knowledge in Step 5 after reading the chapter in the manual.
You can sing like a star.